Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's extravagant session of Thursday Tech Day, which is going to be consists with regards to talking or doing a free presentation for Microsoft Excel version 2019 to 2021. The reason why I included 2021 is because I recently updated my version of Office on my computer here. So to kind of tackle the previous as well as the current version of Microsoft Office Excel, I included 2021 in there as well. So this presentation does have sound in it. Again, I've taken several slides from my training course of Microsoft Excel. And by taking the slides off of it, I remodify it to fit this presentation. The intent of this is present slides, just an overview. At the same time, I do have some exercise files that I am going to upload onto the chat feature here. So as you can see, your chat feature in your Zoom platform or interface, there is a process or a step that you can upload files on there and share it to your audience. So as we get to certain topics of Microsoft Excel, we'll go ahead and do a tutorial, and you're more than welcome to do it. I'm not, going to make it mandatory, but if you want to see, again, this is being recorded, how to do, like, for an example, conditional formatting, or how to do tables, or how to do pivot tables, or even we're going to conclude with mail merge, something that I took from my administrative professional conference week that we've done here at Staff Development to conclude the possibilities of utilizing a data set or a workbook and linking or synchronizing it with a Microsoft Word document, and the means to where you can create countless amounts of certificates with people or information that pertains within your data set. So kind of bridging the gap with how versatile the software of Office can be or intertwine with each other. So we're going to go ahead and conclude with that. So I'm going to keep my phone on silent. Here we go. So let's excel with Microsoft Excel 2019-2021, hosted by Lionel Patterson, which is me, training instructor here at Staff Development and Training Department. So what we are going to cover are as follows. These are the objectives. Introduction, which I, kind of just rambled on and took time to do. Insight of Microsoft Excel 2019 and 2021, basic general overview of the Excel user interface. So when you launch the application software based on your default settings, these are how it is being arranged with its interface to kind of give you an understanding of how to utilize the application software. So many of you may probably be aware that when you install any types of apps or application software on a computer or a portable device, even like, let's say, your cell phone, they are arranged as what they refer to as a default setting. You do have the opportunity to explore the settings as well as the option feature to customize it to your own preference. But with respects to talking about Microsoft Office, we are going to simply just cover what you might anticipate when you open it on its initial launch after it has been successfully installed onto your computer device, and what to anticipate to kind of get an ease understanding with what is there. Types of commands that we are going to demonstrate. Again, there are a variety of areas that I want to cover. If you happen to be aware of the training that we offer at Staff Development and Training Department, we do offer Microsoft Excel training as a 3-tier. You have your basic, intermediate, as well as your advanced. So I was able to take certain, topics from basic and intermediate as well as advanced to kind of just give you guys a general overview with what you can anticipate. And if you want to, take training with us, these are some areas that you might probably want to, be into considerate of, understanding. And of course, explaining our scenarios. I do have some Excel exercises that we are going to open and just kind of work to get a general understanding or hands-on with regards to the topics or commands that we are going to cover. So insight of Microsoft Excel 2019-2021, slight glimpse of the user interface. Types of commands that we are going to dive in today. So we have conditional formatting, functions. We're going to get into some functions within the extent library of the functions library that Excel has to offer. Get into how you can create tables and utilizing tables as a means to sort and filter out information, and then dive into how to utilize pivot tables with regards to taking an existing lengthy data set and trying to summarize information pertaining to utilizations of your pivot tables. And of course, we'll conclude with how to understand mail merge with the use of Microsoft Word to try to take an existing data set and then applying that data set workbook into a mail merge, into a Word document. So then you can go ahead and, create countless amounts of documents based on what your data source has within your workbook. So one of the examples I'm going to be doing is a Pirate Camp certificate to kind of just illustrate how you can use that feature. So now getting into a slight glimpse.
When the Microsoft Excel application software is launched, it has been set in the default settings as which the program is arranged. Here are a few important features of the application's interface. Spreadsheet. A spreadsheet is simply a paper or an electronic document, arranged in tabular form, that is used to store, manipulate, and analyze data. Worksheet. A worksheet is an electronic spreadsheet that is used for entering, storing, and analyzing data in Excel. Think of worksheets as individual pages within Excel that display and allow you to work with your data. Workbook. A workbook is an Excel file that serves as a container to store related Excel worksheets. If you apply the individual page analogy to the workbook as well, the worksheets are the individual pages, whereas the workbook is the binding that holds the pages together. We've come a long way, from utilizing tabular form booklets to record data. Accountants and bookkeepers, for an example, have used this to log in their financial accounts and records. Though this required to manually insert their data with the use of a pen or pencil. This method was perfected during a time prior to the advent of computers. Now, venture on to current times. With the advancement of technology such as computers and task-specific application software, we can take the traditional approach of utilizing tabular form booklet for record keeping and integrate it to a digital platform that is simple and easy to use.
Sales and range is one of the most common terminologies when it comes to working with Microsoft Excel. So a cell is simply a singular container that you can use to input data input and store data. So as you can see in this illustration on the slide, cell C2, which is the cell reference, is pointing out that that is just a singular container that you can use to input and store your data. On the other hand, a range is a continuous group of cells that is typically contains related data. So as you can see, what is highlighted in this green area under range indicates that this is relatable data that has been stored within this area. So cells are singular containers and range is a continuous group that is related within those singular containers. So understanding these basic terminologies with Microsoft Excel, we will then venture again what cell reference and range reference refer to as, because these are kind of like the foundation, in my opinion, as to understanding how to navigate and locate a cell or selections of a range of cells. So a range reference consists of a row header and a column header, which identifies the cells at the intersections of the row and column. So if you take a look at the spreadsheet here, you see, categories of alphabetical letters that are going horizontal at the top, and then numbers that are going down vertically on the left. Within those intersections of identifying the alphabet letter as well as the numbers, that will kind of give you the location of that cell reference. Hence this part here, which is B2, is highlighted. On the other hand, with range reference, it consists of two cell reference separated by a colon that represents the top left and the bottom right of the range. So they kind of set it up to where if you want to identify or highlight a range, it would require to go ahead and indicate the cell reference of the top left, as well as a colon followed by the cell reference of the bottom right. So here's an example, D2 colon F6. So these are kind of the syntax that we will be putting in regards to with respects to working with formulas or functions with the use of Microsoft Excel. Here, we're going to venture on to the general user interface. And this is with regards to working with Excel 2019. If you're working with 2021, just notice that everything is fairly similar, but there are some slight changes that the interface has made. And I'll go ahead and emphasize that when we're doing the exercises. So, of course, when you open the application software at its initial launch, you'll recognize at the top center with 2019 is the title bar. If you're working with 2021, the title bar has been shifted slightly to the left. In the upper left corner of your application software window, you will see there is a quick access toolbar there. Quick access toolbar is basically where you can house generally or frequently used commands in this position of the user interface. So then when you are working extensively in your spreadsheets, this is where you can go ahead and utilize commands without having to go through the extra effort of navigating through the application software to locate these commands. You also have the option to customize, adding more additional commands to your quick access toolbar, as well as the ability to move your quick access toolbar at the bottom of the ribbon area. And this is your ribbon area, which we'll go ahead and explain further down, but this just kind of shows you where it's located. Generally, this is where you can go to locate your commands as to what you are going to use and with the extent of the purpose of your spreadsheets. You have your status bar down at the lower left corner. Status bar just basically conveys the status information within your workbook. You have options to apply additional information to your status bar by simply right-clicking on your status bar with your cursor, and then, initiating additional options that you can apply to your status bar. You also have shortcut tools like your zoom and view control. If you take a look at your ribbon, you'll notice that there is a view tab located there. In your view tab, you will have some layout options that you can change, as well as the ability to zoom in and zoom out within your spreadsheet. But this is just kind of offering this as a part of your user interface. Again, just similar to the quick access toolbar without having to go through the trouble of navigating extensively. Several more elements that you might want to be more aware of with working with your Excel user interface. First and foremost, when it comes to applying content, text, numbers, or functions into an active cell, you would have to revert that within your formulas bar here. So your formulas bar, based on what active cell that you have within your spreadsheet, whatever you type in the formula bar is going to go ahead and apply that content within that active cell. You also have a name box that's located next to your active cell, which is a useful tool to consider to kind of be more aware of what cell reference is currently active. In addition to that, if you happen to take any of our courses, we also talk about using the name box as a way to where you can formulate name ranges with a set of selected data within your data set. You also can use the name box to go ahead and type in your cell reference or your range reference as a means of a selection. This button here between your column header and your row header, if you see this square with a shaded triangle that's pointing to the left, bottom left corner, this is your select all button. By any means, if you feel like you want to select the entirety of your active spreadsheet, you can click on this button and it's going to select the entirety of your spreadsheet. And a fun fact here, one spreadsheet itself can house potentially over 16,000 columns and over 1 million rows. So you can see how massive a spreadsheet is, is being positioned within your workbook, as it means that you can potentially, use it to input a huge countless amount of data within your workbook. Your column headers, again, it consists of alphabetical letters. And if you go beyond Z, it goes like double, like AA, AB, AC, and so forth. And of course, you do have your row headers, which are located here, numbered down, 1 to over 1 million for one spreadsheet. You have your worksheet tab navigation control. If you have an assorted amount of worksheets that are within one workbook, and if it seems to overlap your scroll handle at the bottom horizontally, you can utilize your worksheet tab navigation controls to get further back to your spreadsheets that are not being visible within your sheet tabs. Again, this is your sheet tabs here. So you are defaulted by sheet 1, 2, and 3. If you want to add additional worksheets to your workbook, you can go ahead and click on your new sheet button located here, and it will then go ahead and add an additional worksheet, which will probably give it a default sheet 4, sheet 5, sheet 6. How many of them you have clicked will kind of just follow that same sequence. Your scrolling bars here, if you need to see beyond what is on your screen with regards to your data set, you can use your scroll bars to navigate further left or further down within your spreadsheet area. So again, these are just general elements that pertain with regards to your user interface when it comes to working with Microsoft Excel. Now, so moving on to your Excel command windows. Again, if you take a look at the upper right corner, you'll see here there is a display option what pertains to your ribbon. You do have options to collapse your ribbon down if you don't want it to be advertised into your user interface. Guys, I need to just mute you guys just 1 second. Okay, so with regards to that, you have your display options. You also have your minimize button here. You also have your maximize restore button. These all pertain to your Microsoft operating systems, or if you happen to work with Macintosh, might be different. Of course, you have your close button located here. Your backstage view. If you take a look at your user interface, there is a tab that says File. When you select the File tab, it's not going to show you like options on your ribbon. It's going to take you into this feature here, which is referred to as your Backstage View tab. With your Backstage View tab, you do have a left pane, which is right here, which has a listings of additional tabs and commands for you to use. So whatever you select in your left pane within the option, you will see in your right pane those options that are predicated to what you have select in your left pane. So, common features that we use this would probably save or print when we want to print in Word, our document, if we want to print our PowerPoint slides in PowerPoint, or in this case in Excel, if we want to print our workbook, we can select the print button here. So this is your Backstage View tab, and this is something that has been introduced since Office 2010. So you can see as within, using the software, you can see that they still have this particular type of concept that they're still using to this day. Your ribbon feature is a common interface element shared by Microsoft Office 2019 or 2021 application, is a component of your Excel user interface. The ribbon is a graphical user interface that contains all of the most commonly used commands you will need to create, modify, and work with your Microsoft Excel workbook. It's designed as a way to provide quick access to frequently used commands without the need to extensively navigating menus or submenus. The ribbon is displayed along the top of the user interface and is organized in a series of tabs as well as command groups. These command groups contains a series of commands that you will use to enter, format, revise, and work with your workbook data. If you take a look at your command groups, you'll see at the bottom right corner, if you recognize that there's a little box with an arrow indicator, that particular feature is what they refer as your dialog box launcher. Understanding that they try to cram in as much commonly used commands within these command groups. If there's a particular command or option that you don't see in your command group, and if you find that that particular dialog box indicator is active, if it's not active, it'll be grayed out. But if it's active, you can click on these markers and it'll go ahead and pop up a dialog box of options specifically pertaining to that command group. So that's just kind of explaining that feature there. So these are just listings of the ribbons that have been defaulted. The ribbon tabs don't just have a name just to have a name. They do serve a distinct purpose with why they are being positioned within your user interface. For an example, insert. When you hear insert, you immediately think of inserting objects into your workbook. Like for an example, a chart, a table, a smart art graphic, headers and footers, images. Those are objects that you can insert into your workbook. You also have formulas, which you can probably comprehend that this focuses on areas of a variety of formulas or calculations that you can perhaps utilize in efforts to calculate any types of figures pertaining into your data set. So cursor icons, your mouse cursor. When you are working with this software based on your cursor that you're using with respects to your operating system and probably Windows 10 or Windows 11, when you're working with Excel and if you position your cursor and move it around, you'll notice that it will change in certain ranges of areas within your application software. These particularly just shows you what types of cursor icons they are, and where you can see these when you place your cursor at these particular locations, and a brief description with regards to what those cursor changes entail. So shortcut navigations, these are quite useful when you want to navigate extensively with regards to working with your spreadsheet. Now we'll talk about is conditional formatting. The way I have the structure is I have conditional formatting and functions together. I'm going to talk about first, and then we'll go ahead and get into our first exercise. So if you don't know what conditional formatting is, it is a command that is housed on your home tab within your styles command group. So as you can see, this red box highlight conditional formatting. So basically what this does is you can apply formatting to cells or range of cells by making it visibly stand out based on your data that meets a specific criteria. So instead of having to manually observe every cells within an active data set, for an example, if you want to add emphasis to a certain value that is greater than what is going to be indicated, you can apply that to conditional formatting, and you can apply the value greater than, and then apply what highlights are available. So without having you to manually eyeball each figures, conditional formatting can briefly accommodate that for you as such. One of the features that you can use with your conditional formatting is your highlight cell rules. So if you take a look at the drop-down menu, you have greater than, less than, between, a threshold, equal to, text that contains, a date occurs, or if you want to highlight duplicate values. So either of these options that you select within your highlight cell rule, you'll see a box that will open, which then you can go ahead and manually incorporate the values, as well as selecting what type of format you want it to apply. So based on the range of cells that you selected, you'll notice that those particular cells will be highlighted based on the selected emphasis that you were able to select within its drop-down features. You also have another one called top to bottom rule, which is right here. This one, if you want to select a range of cells and acknowledge the top 10%, top 25%, the percentage itself, you do have options to change. So this has it listed as top 10% or bottom 10%. Like if you want to highlight those data sets that were in the top tier, or those that were within the bottom tier, or if you want to highlight those that are above the average value or below the average value, you have the top to bottom rules that can apply to those types of highlights that you specify within your criteria. Data bars. These act as a way to where you can kind of see like a data graph has been implemented into your cells. So if you want to see your data set kind of mimicking like a bar chart, if you will, within your data set, you can use data bars, and these can apply to where you can visually acknowledge what's the maximum values, what's the minimum values, or what is within the range of the upper average or the lower average. You also have color schemes, which kind of work similar to the data bars, but this takes one color and then takes another color for the maximum and the minimum value, and it blends in like a gradient hue in between. So those that are within the average to above average or above to the maximum, you'll see the color hue blend in. And then those that are within the medium down to the below average, you'll see that blend in that area. If you happen to sort out your values from largest to smallest or smallest to largest, and if you scroll down, you can see that gradient blend take into effect. So this is just how you can use color scheme within your data set. Similar to that, you have icons. So if you don't want to use color schemes, you also have icons that you can also apply. So again, these are just to emphasize certain conditions or outputs with regards to your data set, all within the means of your conditional formatting. Moving on to your Excel functions. Understanding basic terminology, functions is a built-in or pre-existing formula users can insert into your worksheets. With in regards to your functions, it requires you with respects to an argument, and your argument is elements of your Excel function that defines the values and reference about the functions to use to perform a particular calculation. So as you can see here, this is an example of a sum function. In addition to that, when you see the parentheses, this is your argument here. As it implies, it's the cell reference range or the range reference of B2 to E2. And of course, cell reference F2 is going to be your function results, which is going to do the calculation there. So chances are, if you ever work with Microsoft Excel with respects to its functions, you probably are familiar with this process. Here we'll show you an extent amount of categories of functions libraries that you can find within your formulas tab. Again, appreciating I would say the evolution of Office from its earliest versions. Their functions library has evolved to where it's offering, a variety of functions that you can use. So if you ever get a chance, just go to your formulas library or your functions library in your formula tab and drop down the menus to see what types of functions are available, because there is a massive amount of functions within the Excel catalog that you might want to venture. If you happen to take any of our courses, I believe we've covered some of it in part 1 as well as in part 2, and in addition in part 3. So functions is probably like one of the main features that Microsoft Excel has.
The if function. The if function returns one value if the logical test you enter as an argument is true, and it returns a different value if the logical test is not true. For example, you would use this function to determine a sales rep's commission, if, and only if, he or she met a particular sales goal.
This particular function, it's based within the logical function category. So you can set it up as if a function is deemed true based on the criteria that has been set forth, you can have it do one set of calculations. However, if the function criteria seems false, you can have it do a separate type of calculation or no calculation at all. So this example here is with regards to a commission. If a total value is greater than a certain value, then you can apply the commission. If not, then you could just leave it 0 and no commission will be given. Concatenate is another function which is housed in your function library, and this is with respects to your text function. So concatenate allows you to take, I guess, cells that are broken down into 3 areas, and then you can unify them by concatenating them together. So if you take a look at this example here, let me bust out my annotate. You see here, cell says John, Howell, and then Junior. This last one here is concatenated here with A2, comma, quote, space, quote, to add a space right here. And then B2, which is here. And then again, comma, and then space, which will accommodate this here. So if you happen to have, like, say, for an example, a cell breakdown with a first, last name, and the suffix, if you want to like unify them as one whole name, you can use the concatenate to accommodate that. This is another cool tool that I've been quite often using to this point, which is in your data tab. There's a tool under your data tools group called Convert Text to Column Wizard. In any cases, if you ever encounter this situation where a particular coworker, hypothetically, they inadvertently put in one cell or one column the first and last name of, I guess, your participants or whatever you're recording, but you want it separate, like, in separate columns. So having to just imagine the tedious process of having to highlight each last name, cutting and pasting to the next cell, highlight the last name, cut and paste the next cell, highlight, cut, paste, highlight, cut, paste. It seems tiring just talking about it to this point. But if you take a gander at your data tab, and if you go into your data tools, you'll see a command here that says text to column. Just as long as you have in your worksheet empty columns next to it. And we're going to do this example on a variety of different occasions, but this is just to explain it. You can see here when you go to text to column, it will then open up this, text to column, convert text to column dialog box, which then you can see it has options, and it's giving you a preview here. Considering that John Mayer, Jack Cole, Aaron Yazzie, Eddie Vitter, and Peter Parker have spaces between their first and last name, notice that there is a space option that you can check right here. So when you check it, take a look at your preview. If everything is in coordinates and you hit finish, take a look at this one here. You see now those have been moved to the next column. So what may seem like a tedious sequence of a process, which would be very tiring and time consuming, can be simply accommodated with a matter of minutes. So this is your convert to text column wizard that you can find within your data tab in Excel. This is another one that I stumbled upon too that's pretty cool. It's your proper function, which is a text function. And I get this a lot, especially when it comes to registrations or participants that we get from our trainings or presentations that we hold. Quite often when people put in their information, they use all caps or they kind of just type it in unusually. So when I intercept or when I receive that information or that report from Zoom, because you can get, registration data sets from Zoom. So for an example, the registrations that you guys use to get in today's session, I can obtain that through the reports to Zoom for my record keeping, and then of course your participation as well. So if I encountered this situation where I get some contents that are not with, kind of like a capital letter and lowercase afterwards, I can utilize the proper, function in my text function, and it'll accommodate that for me. So as you can see here, you see Clark, Barry, all of these ones, and comparing it to these ones here, they went ahead and changed it to where it looks more, a bit more professional. So now that we have, at least talked about some functions as well as discussing the conditional formatting, take a look at your chat box. I am going to load in a exercise called Sporting Goods Sales. So it's uploading. You see it loaded in the chat, Sporting Goods Sales. It's an Excel workbook. Just go ahead and open that right now. When you do, just kindly give me the thumbs up, so then I'll know that you guys have opened it okay, and we can proceed on to this. Again, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. This is just kind of demonstrating how to use okay, so this is what you should have open. Let me go to portion of screen. So this is what we should have open here. Let's go ahead and just kind of box it in. So this is just a spreadsheet that I was able to create quickly with a previous used workbook that I had within my Excel 2010 training. As you can see, it's got names of the employees. This is a sporting goods store recording their, quarterly revenue. You have a total, average, highest, lowest, commission, and so forth. So what we are going to do first is we are going to go ahead and kind of just change this up a little bit. So what I want you to do, let me zoom in. Right here's good. Highlight A2 for it says name all the way to J2. And to highlight is just click and drag. So A2 to J2. So we got the column headers highlighted here. Once they're highlighted, if you take a look at your home tab, under your styles group, you see styles. You see this style section here, this gallery, just drop it down. Now you're going to see it's going to open up an additional options of galleries of styles that, are listed. So under titles and heading, just go ahead and select, let's say, go with heading 2 to change that style. So we can see our column header is going to be a little bit more different. So once we have that changed, next we are going to go ahead and change the number values from B3 all the way up to E26. So just highlight the number values here from B3 to E26. As you can see, I highlighted as such. Under your home tab, you see a command group that's listed as numbers or number. Drop down where it says general, variety of formats there. And we're going to simply select currency. So just go ahead and select currency. Now we are going to change those values into currency. So you can see it applied the dollars and cents on that. Okay, so next, I am going to go ahead and go into total F2, F3. And one of the functions that can do the sum function quick, fast, in a hurry is simply going into your formulas tab under your functions library. You see a command says auto sum. So when you select auto sum, it's going to immediately highlight the values from B3 all the way up to E3, which is what we want. So once we have that, you can hit enter or hold down your control button on your keyboard and hit enter, and it's going to go ahead and calculate that value for you. Okay, so we have determined the calculation for that one there. Another would be average. So you can see average here. And with average, we're going to do a method that's called autocomplete method. So again, you can go into your auto sum and select average here, or you can go into your average. Let me just zoom in just slightly more right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and type in my formulas bar, equal sign, AV. Notice that there's a drop down. You see average located there. Double click on it, and you're going to see average is all immediately going to be put in. Once it's put in, I'm going to go ahead and highlight B3 all the way up to Q3, or I'm sorry, E3. B3 to E3, and notice that it's already given me what I'm highlighting. So once that's been highlighted, just go ahead and click Control Enter or Enter, and you're going to see it's going to give me the average values of these four. If you have error messages, there's a good chance it's probably you just have equals AV. You don't have average on there. For commission here, what I want to do is, based on what I'm seeing within the total value, 90,000, I want to give a commission for a total sale of 95,000 or greater. So what I want to do is I'm going to have to resort to using a logical function, which is the if function, to do that. So going back to commission, I'm going to go ahead and select H3, go to my formulas tab. I'm going to select logical, drop that down. You see if function is located here. And when I select if function, you're going to see a functional argument box open. So the logical test is if I'm going to go ahead and click on F3 or type in F3. If F3 is greater than 95,000, if that's true, then I'm going to do F3 times, which is the asterisk. You see 4% here on K2, and it's going to do the calculation. If it's false, I'm going to just leave it as 0. Or I can type in no commission, and that's going to give me the result for, a value or no commission. So when I hit OK, you're going to see it's going to give me that if function results, no commission, because 90,000 is lesser than 95,000. So that's already starting that out for me. So now you're wondering about this whole data here. How can I fill it without having to go through the trouble of doing it individually? If you happen to take the Part 1 basic course, there is a technique called autofill, and it focuses on this little green dot here on the upper or the lower right corner of your active cell selection. So you see that green dot there? When you position your cursor on top of it, so I clicked on F3 and it's on top of it, you see it turns into a skinny cross. I have the option to drag it down, or I can just double click, which is right here. And you're going to see it's going to go ahead and accommodate that for me for the rest of it. So try not to explain in great detail, but what autofill does is it recognizes the series of what the active cell is, and it's basically duplicating the intent of the series with the rest of the cells within your data set. So instead of having to create this sequence of the sum function manually, autofill can accommodate the rest for you. So I can do the same with average. As you can see, it gives me the average values for that set. I forgot to mention absolute reference, but I'm not going to just go ahead and change that to F3 times 0.04. So it'll do that calculation for you. So you can see these values here do qualify for those that were able to reach 95,000 or more in total sales, which will then, based on their total sales, they'll get 4% commission, which you can see the values that they are getting. This is what we should be able to have at the end. Maybe you have it or not. It's fine if you don't. I'm just kind of, again, this is just information. So next, what we want to do is we want to do conditional formatting. So taking a look at your values from B3 all the way up to E26. So highlight B3 to E26 if you want, if you can. Now, I would like to know, hypothetically, if I'm this department store manager, at what point did my employees reach 35,000 or more? And I don't want to just spend time looking at this whole ordeal and try to comprehend that manually. What I can do instead is highlight from B3 all the way up to E26. Go to my home tab, styles group, conditional formatting, drop that down. You see highlight sales rule. Go to your right and you'll notice there's greater than located there. So when I select greater than, notice that it's already doing me a live preview here with this value here, but I want to change that to just simply 35,000. So you notice when I typed in 35,000 here, drop this down. I'm just going to go with a green, dark green fill here. Click on OK. So you can see now with the conditional formatting that these values here are above 35,000 or more. So just based on looking at this, I can immediately tell that the second quarter, these employees did pretty well because I have quite a few that have reached 35,000 or more. So lastly, I want to go ahead and select your total from F3 down to F26. I'm going to go ahead and apply a data bar conditional formatting on this here. So while I have F3 to F26 highlighted, select conditional formatting. You see data bar. I'm going to select a blue or whatever color you prefer. It's up to you. I like the blue color, so I'm going to select the blue color. I'm just going to drag this out a little bit more to change my column width. Now you can see how my data looking out with regards to your data bar. Conditional formatting. So fun fact, you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to go ahead and click on F1 and go to my data tab you see sort and filter. I'm going to sort largest to smallest. You're going to see when I click largest to smallest, it's going to sort that out for me to see basically how my data bar would take into effect. You know, you don't have to do that. You can just leave it the way it is. So you can see here, Lewis pulled out pretty good with bringing in 161,000. And the one that did not do so well is Johnson here, only bringing in 55,000. That's how you work with functions as well as data bars. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic, which talks about is tables and pivot tables. So this is going to be
Tables. Table is simply a dataset composed of contiguous rows and columns that Excel treats as a single, independent object. Excel tables contain a robust set of functionality that allows you to organize, change the display of, and perform calculations on worksheet data with just a few mouse clicks. Regardless of how many ways you manipulate your table data, the raw data you initially entered remains intact. You can create tables from existing ranges, or create empty tables, and then populate them. You can also revert tables back to simple ranges. Table components. There is a basic set of table components that Excel tables can contain, but don't necessarily have to. By default, Excel tables contain a header row and appear with banded rows. You have the option to toggle the display of these, and other components on, or off to suit your needs and to provide access to, or suppress various functionality. The Create Table dialog box. You can use the Create Table dialog box to convert simple ranges of data into tables. From here, you can confirm the range selection you wish to convert into a table or modify that range to ensure that the correct data becomes part of the table. The Create Table dialog box also enables you to decide whether or not you wish to include the top row of the selected range in the new table as a header row. On this slide, a video demonstrates how a table is created from a dataset. The table command is located in your Insert tab. Within your tables group, the Table Tools Contextual tab. The Table Tools Contextual tab contains various commands and options that are specific to working with tables. It appears when you select a worksheet table, or any part of a table, and disappears when you select an object outside the table. The Table Tools Contextual tab contains only one tab, the Design tab, which is divided into 5 command groups. Considering that the table is an object, a feature that was inserted into Excel, you would have to click within the range of the table for the Contextual tab to be active. Anything selected out of the table, outside within the worksheet, the Contextual tab will disappear. Table Styles and Quick Styles. Table styles are configurations of formatting options you can apply to your worksheet tables. Table styles help make your tables more visually appealing and easier to read. Table styles can consist of fonts, borders, and fill formatting. Lastly, you can create your own customized table styles as well.
So this is talking about your table styles. You do have an abundance of styles. This is a new feature that 2019 introduces with regards to working with objects, in this case, a table. So it's called Quick Analysis. When you highlight a range of data, like in this video here, you'll notice that there's a pop-up button right next to the corner of the highlight. When you select that, you'll see your quick analysis bar emerge, which gives you a variety of different types of categories like formatting, charts, spark lines. So what else is there? Tables. This is kind of acting like a shortcut feature to insert these without having to go through the hassle of going to your insert tab. So again, the software is just trying to provide shortcuts for users to take advantage of. And this is something that has been introduced on 2019 up to the current version, which is 2021.
Pivoting. Pivoting allows you to view your data from a variety of new perspectives. In Excel, pivoting is a form of data manipulation that can take a column of data and pivot it into a row, and vice versa. While this may not seem highly useful at first, think about it in terms of reorganizing and summarizing data based on a number of criteria. On this slide you can see a video of a data set in a table which contains every individual who took training at Staff Development and Training Department in FY18. As you can see in the video, we are scrolling down the table to illustrate how much of the data was collected. Now, if you take a look on the image to the right, you will see a pivot table, indicating the computer course that were taught, and the count of how many individuals took that computer course. This is an example of what pivot tables can do. It can take a data set, reorganized, and summarize the data based on the criteria you set it to.
So we are going to kind of demonstrate this with the data set that I was able to take from my tenure of training from 2018 on to just last week. So we'll kind of explore how to use pivot tables with the extent of a large data set to kind of do just a general summarization with regards to pivoting to kind of get some information.
Pivot tables. A pivot table is a dynamic Excel data object that enables you to analyze data by pivoting columns and rows of raw data without altering the raw data. Pivot tables are effective for summarizing large volumes of data according to 2 or more criteria to return specific answers to your questions. Pivot tables combine some of the most powerful and useful types of Excel functionality, such as sorting, filtering, summary functions, and subtotals, to give you an incredible level of control over how you view your data. When you create a pivot table, Excel enables you place it on the same worksheet as the original data, or you can insert it on a new worksheet. Once the pivot table is created, you can repivot, resort, resummarize, and refilter your data any number of times without affecting the original data set. In addition to pivoting columns,
I'm just making sure.
And rows, you can nest columns and rows within one another to create a hierarchy, much as you do when using subtotals. You can expand or collapse levels of hierarchy to view more or less detail in your pivot tables. And you can use any of the available summary functions to summarize your pivoted data for a variety of purposes. You can also create pivot tables out of either data in the same workbook or data from other workbooks and external data sources. The Create Pivot Table dialog box. You use the Create Pivot Table dialog box to insert pivot tables into your worksheets. From here, you can select the desired data set or include a reference to a named range or table. You can also select a location for the pivot table, which can be on the same worksheet as the data set or on another worksheet in the same workbook. You can access the Create Pivot Table dialog box by selecting the Insert tab inside the Tables group, and then the Pivot Table command.
So this is just kind of demonstrating how you can create a pivot table. So we'll kind of get into this with our exercise as well.
The Pivot Table Field List pane. Once you create a pivot table, you will use the Pivot Table Field List pane to configure the pivot table and perform data analysis tasks. Excel automatically opens Pivot Table Field List pane when you insert a pivot table in a worksheet. The top half of the pane, the Choose Fields to Add to Report section, displays a list of all of the fields, the columns from the original data set. Excel pulls the names for these from the column labels. The bottom half of the pane, the Drag Fields Between Areas Below section, displays a series of 4 areas that you use to configure the pivot table. By dragging the various fields to the various areas, you configure the structure of the pivot table and select the values upon which Excel performs calculations.
So when you successfully insert your pivot table, you're going to have to rely on your pivot table field to basically formulate your pivot table with respects to the data that it is referencing for. So again, we'll kind of get a glimpse of the hands-on experience when we do our pivot table, which is right now. So I'm going to go ahead and first we'll do tables. I'm hoping that you guys can get this one done quick. If not, then I might have to just do it and you guys just watch and we'll take it from there. But just to kind of explain, hold on just a second. This is something that I did fairly recent with a particular hobby of mine. I don't know if you guys are familiar with fantasy football. I've been involved with a fantasy football league with my brother who used to work at Fire Rock Casino, and he was able to get a series of employees that are still there together and create a fantasy football league, which we put in money, and based on whoever's champion will receive a larger sum of that, which is all done in fun because I enjoy football. I love watching it. This kind of gets me invested to watch other teams' players perform. So when we were doing our fantasy football league, we were resorted to this document here from ESPN, which is the top 300 projected players or defense special teams in fantasy football. So as you can see, all of this information, all of the players and all of that is confined in one page document. As I zoom out here, you can see it's not flattering to see it's small. See, you would probably need a magnifying glass to take a look and evaluate your players and their coordinates. What I ended up doing, being a Excel guru, I went to this PDF document. I exported it as a spreadsheet Excel, which led me to get this result here, which is this one. Sometimes when you import in documents, it doesn't come out to what you expect. So as you can see, it's still, I'm zooming in, it's still giving me what I want, but the information is so tiny. And what I had to do with this information was try to edit it and revise it to where I was able to get it to where it looks like this here. So now it's a little bit more refined. You can see I went ahead and kind of cleaned it up just a tad bit. So creating a table, I'm going to close this and don't save this. So let me go ahead and upload that onto the chat feature here. So let's see, top 300. So you guys should have been able to see that in the chat. If you can, just go ahead and open that top NFL 300. And again, give me a thumbs up to open it. So I'll go ahead and open my mine up. Hold on just a second. So as you can see here, let me zoom in. This is what I'm working with. Now, just to save time, we don't necessarily need to focus on the values because this is something to do with like DraftKings. DraftKings is like a premier way of playing fantasy football and bet large amounts of money. But we're not in the sense of that. All we're focusing on is the rank number, the position, the players, and their their respected team. So I'm going to go ahead and click on C as well as D. Highlight C and D, column C and D. Again, just click on the column names, column header letters, and then you can go to either your home tab, cells, group, delete, drop that down, and delete sheet column, or you can just right click it and then go to delete. So we're just going to remove that. What I want to do first is I want to separate the number and position. As you can see here, it's got the number followed by a period and then in brackets, their position. So remember I mentioned to you before about working with convert text to column. That's what we are going to do here. So in order to perfect that, we need to add an extra column in replace of B and move column B to column C. So to do that, just simply right click on or click on B, column B. Just go ahead and click on column B and then right click it and go to insert. So again, click on column B to select the entire column. Once you select column B, right click it and then go to insert. So now you see column B ended up moving over a blank column, and you see C in replace with position and team. So once we have that done, what I want you to do, we're going to do a shortcut command to select from B A2. So select A2. Make sure you select A2. On your computer keyboard, hold down your shift key and your control key together and tap the down arrow just once. So you can see it's going to select from A2 all the way to A301. Again, shortcut command feature. First, select A2, which is number 1 dot running back 1 in parentheses. Select A2 on your computer keyboard, shift control, hold shift and control down, and then tap the down arrow once. And it's going to go ahead and highlight that for you. So now that we have A2 to A301 highlighted, go into, I'm going to zoom in, your data tab. And in your data tab, you see data tools group, and you see text to column, which is right here. So click on text to column. You notice your text to column box is going to appear. You know what? Let me zoom in so we can see it. So this is your text to column box. So we're going to go ahead and keep it with delimited. We're going to hit the next button. And here you see semicolon, colon, space. We're going to go ahead and select other. And then we're in this blank area, just go ahead and insert a period. Notice that when you insert the period, as you look at your preview section, it recognizes that. So once you have that, again, it looks like this. Make sure you have others checked, and in your white area, put in a period. Once you have that, go ahead and hit finish. Notice now it's going to move your ranking to the next column that you just inserted. It should have done it to all of them, but let me just go ahead and just highlight that, and here we go. See how we separated that? Now notice with the players' names, it's got a comma and then where they're playing at. So as you see here, C2, Jonathan Taylor, comma, Indianapolis Colts. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this out just a bit so we can see it further. I'm going to go ahead and just extend column D out. Repeating the same sequence as we did with number and position. I am going to go ahead and select C2. Click Shift Control and the down arrow once. As you can see, it highlighted from C2 all the way to C301. Go to your data tab. Text to column. And then it's taking a look at what you have highlighted. Go to next. And then in this case, uncheck other and then check comma. So uncheck other and then check comma. So you can see the preview. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and hit finish. Now you're going to see it's going to move the team names into the next. So once you have that, now we're going to go ahead and rename our column headers. So A is going to just simply be numbers. So select A1 and just type in numbers with naming the numbers. B1 would be positions or position. C1 would be name. And then D1 would be team. I'm just going to go highlight D1. So now you can see we have our draft separated in columns. So once we have that separated, just go ahead and select A1. And then go into your Insert tab, Tables, Table Command Group, and the Select Tables. It's going to pull up your little small Create Table box. It's already acknowledging your range of data. You see where it says My Table has headers. Indeed, it does. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you can see now it put this in a table. So I'm with your table style. See, notice that I'm in my tables, inside my table where it says Table Design Contexture tab. Styles, you can drop that down and you can select whatever style you want. You can even customize your own style, but I love working with tables because it's got banded rows. So it kind of makes it look, it's easy on the eyes when you look at stuff. So in addition to doing this, what I ended up doing as well, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with working with tables, but you do have the ability to sort and filter out information. So like say for an example, positions, I want to clean up the positions and just make it wide receiver, quarterback, running back, tight end, kicker, defensive special teams without the parentheses or the numbers involved with it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select B1. You see this drop down menu here for B1. I'm going to click on that. And I'm just going to go ahead and select sort A to Z. So you can see now it's sorted out with defensive special teams first, followed by kickers, quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, and then receivers last. I'm going to go ahead and again use the method of what do you call that? Autofill. By selecting the first row and position where it says DST1, I'm just going to highlight that and put DST and then Control Enter. because this is defensive special teams. And then once I have that, I'm just going to drag autofill down until I get to the very last one, which is DST9. And notice that now it's going to change all of that to just DST. So I'm going to repeat the same for kicker, just kicker, K1. Just type in K, go back to it, and then just highlight that autofill because it's duplicating that. Quarterbacks, QB, and then I'm just going to go ahead and change all the QBs because I don't want the number rankings. I just want their positions, which is right there. And then, of course, running backs, RB. And of course, I'm going to drag that down. You see, there's a lot of, fantasy football running backs is one of the largest groups of players that you would want to draft. So you can see there's a lot there. Tight end. Repeat the same thing. And lastly, receivers. And of course, you have your NFL teams. You can go through the trouble of like sorting out or even filtering, like say Arizona Cardinals first. These are the filtered Cardinals that are on. And then if you want to filter out like, let's see here, the Atlanta Falcons, this is who they have within the top 300 projectedly. If you want to do the Dallas Cowboys, this is who they have. You can clear that. I can go ahead and redo the smallest to largest to put that in order. Now, if you want to see like the final, I guess what I worked on, here's what you can do. Position your mouse where it says table 1. You see it says table 1 down here at your worksheet tab. Right click table 1 and then go to unhide. You see where it says unhide? I hidden a worksheet tab that was called sheet 1. So if you want to see what the end result of what I created, this is sheet 1. And this is what I was able to create for my colleagues that we do fantasy football. So as you can see, I color coded each of the teams with respects to their team color, their position, their bye week, and whatnot. And if I were to send this to the printer, you can see it's where, everything's convenient. I did change the margins to narrow, I believe. Yeah, see? So instead of looking at this tiny worksheet that we got from NFL.com's webpage, which is this one here, comparing it to this one, you can see these guys had a better worksheet to use to look at players. And then when it comes to them drafting, they were able to, see it a lot more conveniently than resorting to this tiny sheet here. So this is just kind of working with tables just to illustrate it. So again, this is part of the recording, and you do have the tutorial file. You don't have to save it, but if you want to practice along, or if this entices you to want to take a Excel training for intermediate, we do cover tables, and these are one of the things that we cover. So I know it's kind of, I do apologize if you guys are not following along. Again, this is just a presentation to show you what you can do. So next one, moving on, I'm going to go ahead and put on SDTD Comp Training 2018-2022. I put in staff comp training 2018 to 2022 workbook file. So if you have that open, just give me a thumbs up, and we'll go ahead and show you how to do pivot tables with that. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up right now. So let me just go to portion of screen. And okay, so right. Now this here, some of you may or might not be a part of this this data set, but I concealed the names for privacy purposes, but I included the employees division, department, their course that they've taken, the dates as to when they've taken it, the cost of it, plus tax, the grand total, and the physical year they have taken these courses. So as you can see, when you scroll down, this is a pretty lengthy document here. And please don't annotate. So if you happen to take training from 2018 on to just last week, chances are your information has been put in here, but I did conceal your names for, privacy purposes, but the data that has been recorded has been in here. So I try to go as far back as I started in 2016, I believe, but the data at the time that I created didn't have the division and department. Later down, when I was informed that that information is also important, that I needed to include that into my registration. So I have that here. So I'll go ahead and show you how to do a pivot table. So if you click inside your table, notice on select table design, notice that your table name is table 1 with a capital T and a 1, all one letter, table 1. We can use that with our pivot table. Or you can just click inside your table, go to your insert tab. You see where it says pivot tables here. Oh, let me just zoom in so we can see it. Here we go. So go to insert, tables, pivot table, select that. You notice that, oh, I'm sorry, hold on. It immediately assumed table 1. So it picked it up for us, which is perfect. So in this area where it says choose where you want your pivot table to be placed, you see new worksheet. We're going to keep it there as new worksheet, and we're going to simply select OK. So when you select OK, you're going to see now it's going to go ahead and create a new worksheet, which is called sheet 1. And you have your pivot table field pane located here. So I'm just kind of squeezing it in to see both of them in the portion of screen. So when you click outside your pivot table pane, notice that your pivot table field pane disappears. But when you click back into it, it reemerges. So now, if you guys want to know how many courses have been offered and what is the popular course in the duration of computer training with staff development since 2018, in your pivot table pivot table fields, you see course here. Click on course and drag it to row. So when you drag it to row and let go, you notice it's going to show you the listings of the courses according to this data set here. Now, to get the total count of participants for these courses, click on course again in your pivot table field and drag that to value, which is right here. And you're going to see it's going to do count of course. So as you can see, the grand total that it's showing you is that there's a total of 1,013 participants from 2018 on to 2022 that have taken training here at Staff Development and Training Department within the areas of computer courses. So if you want to know, again, what was the one that was so high or popular, click inside your pivot table area, like where it says course. I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in so you can see it. And I'm going to right click. I have 23 selected here. Right click it. And I'm going to go to sort. Right click it, sort, which is right here. I'm going to select sort smallest to largest. So you can see now it's sorted out from smallest to largest at the bottom. Now we can distinguish that Excel 2010 Part 1 is the popular course with a total of 162 participants, followed by Excel Part 2, and then Excel 2019 Part 1 Basic. If you want to revert it the other way, you can go to sort, and I believe it was smallest to largest or largest to smallest. There, see, it moved it on top. So that's just determining what is a popular course within the catalogs of training that we offered here at Staff Development. So in your pivot table pane, we're going to go ahead and drag course out of row back up here. So just drag it back into your table field pane and do the same with value. And it's going to take us back to our blank pivot table. Now, if you're wondering which Navajo Nation division took most training in the confines of computer courses. So to answer that question, in your pivot table pane, just make sure you select your pivot table to open your pane. You see where it says division. Just go ahead and click on that and drag that down to row. And again, you can select division again and drag that down to value. And you're going to see it's going to do a count of how many participants within each division that have taken training in computer courses with Staff Development and Training Department. So if I go ahead and do the sort again, you can see the Division of Natural Resources takes the winning with a total of 186 participants that took training with us, followed by Division of Public Safety, then Social Service, and other consists of any entities that's not with regards to the Navajo Nation government, but solicit our business in efforts for training. So I had the luxury of training several individuals from Fort Defiance Indian Hospital, Winslow Indian Hospital, Navajo Arts and Crafts, and so forth. So they would qualify within the areas of others. So I'm going to go ahead and move values back up. here. Now I want to know with each division, how much money did they spend on training with you know, staff development. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back. I have divisions that are down here. And then in our field pane, I am going to go ahead and select fiscal year. And I'm going to drag that down to columns, which is right here. So it's going to break down every fiscal year from 2018 all the way up to 2022, how much money was spent by each department with regards to training. So under values now, I am going to simply drag, I would say, grand total. So there you go. See, it went ahead and incorporate that in. So as you can see, if I were to go to grand total here, right click it, go to sort largest to smallest. This is how much value. And what I can do is I can change these to currency as well. So again, right click it, go to value field settings, which is right here. Under your value field settings box, you see number of values located here. Click on that. And then you see your format cells box, go to currency, and then just change that to currency. So now you can see it's going to change that into a means of currency. So think of this in terms of like revenue. I don't know if you guys ever have opportunities to work with that, but again, what is being emphasized here is taking this raw data set, and I'm going to zoom out to emphasize how large it is. See, it's large. And summarizing information like this here. So this is what generally pivot tables can provide for users to take a raw data set and, do calculations of some sort to summarize. You also can use pivot tables in the means of a pivot chart. To do that, just click inside of your pivot table. I changed that to where I have count there. Analyze pivot table analyze, which is a contexture tab. You see under tools, there's a command that says pivot charts. So when I select pivot charts, it's going to open up my insert chart box here, which then I'm going to select bar chart because I want to see my information in the means of a bar. So I'm going to drag my chart out. So this is information of your pivot table formulated into a pivot chart. Just going to go ahead and remove these title headers. And again, with your pivot charts, if you want to just do let's say for an example, human resources, it's just going to focus on human resources, which is about a little over 70 participants. They have these filterings that you can do, as well as if you go to count, or let me just go to my pivot chart, go to switch it the other way. There we go. So this just emphasizes that information. Let me change my chart to this one here. So this kind of just illustrates that. So if I was given, any inquiries that people want to know, like on a division level, the progress of training, I can show them this, like, according to my records, these are the divisions that took training with us, and this is the information that I can provide. Or if she wants funding, I can change this to take out costs and then go to grand total. And it'll show me that. So this is all what pivot table does, is that you can manipulate your data. Again, your raw data set would have to have that information on here in order to recognize your fields, which then it can take that information on the column to go ahead and accommodate you to do something like this here. So I do cover this, I believe, in the intermediate training. It does kind of get a little bit more in detail, but this is just, again, kind of just summarizing what you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and just close that, not save it. Again, I hope, don't mean to offend those that took training. If the data that was utilized. Okay, so that explains pivot table. And with the 30 minutes that we have left, let me go ahead and just move on to the final part, which is mail merge. Now, I did do a brief description on this during Admin Pro Week during my presentation. Mail merge is basically taking your data source, and your data source can come from the following, which is a database. You can even use an Outlook contact list or address book with this. You can even create it with the means of a Word table, or even in this case, an Excel workbook, which is a lot easier. And common separate values, which is CSV, which is an extension of an Excel workbook file. CSV is something that I use when it comes to doing something that is replicated with mail merge with Word. However, when I use this feature with Adobe InDesign, this particular feature is basically taking mail merge concept, but applying it to more on a desktop publishing document like InDesign. So if you've taken training with me and if you received your certificates, I use this method of data merge with InDesign, but I would have to convert my Excel workbook files to common separated values to go ahead to recognize that, as opposed to an Excel workbook. Yes, you can use this to print mass amounts of certificates all at once. That's what we're going to demonstrate here. So mail merge is basically a process that combines a variable data such as names into a single document to create multiples and individual documents. Examples for customizing documents, you can use this for letter, envelope, labels, and phone and address books, or even in this case, certificates. So mail merge is covered in Microsoft Word training, but to explain the use of Excel, meaning that you would have to create your data set there and then utilize it or synchronize it to a document in Word that can allow you to take just that simple individual document and produce mass quantities of the same document, but that's based on the data in Excel or your data set is going to go ahead and create individual documents for that individual or individual documents for that simple document that you're using. So if you take a look at a picture here, you see at the upper left, you see address block and greeting line. And then if you take a look at the actual preview of the mail merge, it's taking that address block and greeting line and it's applying it to where not only this document is going to be one, but there's going to be perhaps swarms of additional documents that are going to print out with other names and address lines that are being taken from that data set. So mail merge fields, again, when you go into mail merge, and if you insert a field, it kind of looks like you're typing it in, but in a sense, it's actually picking up these as a seams of codes that it's predicating within your data set or your workbook or data source that it's coming it off from. So this is what it's going to kind of look like when you do mail merge. So mail merge process, again, first you would need to create your main document, connect main document to your data source, which is the certificate document, to your data set with the names and information. You need to specify which records to include. If you feel inclined to filter or sort out your data set before you initiate it, you can do that in regards to your mail merge process. Insert your mail merge fields into your document. In this case, we're going to do the first space last name. Preview and print or email your documents one at a time. This is where you can print your documents, which will then print all the certificates at once, or you can save it as a PDF document, which is going to create a PDF document, which you can open with Acrobat and see each document with the certificates with the names different from each document. And then, of course, you also can save your mail merge document. So this is just a step-by-step wizard that we are going to be utilizing. So again, selecting your document, what document type, whether it's an envelope, letter, labels, or directory. 2 would be selecting, starting your document. You can be a current document, start from a template, or start from an existing document, which I commonly like to do. Select your receptionist, which is your data source. So you would have to browse and locate your data set. Once it locates that, it's kind of give you a preview to kind of give an acknowledgement that this is what you have. Once everything is in accordance, then you can click on next, which then you can go ahead and insert your merge fields, like inserting your labels, which then you can preview and see individual pages with regards to the outcome. So this is kind of showing you before mail merge. And when you actually succeed in doing mail merge, you notice that your right in insert or a majority of your commands in your mail merge is activated to use. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of do this step-by-step process to get an idea with how we can do mail merge. So let me go ahead and stop here and go to File, My Computer. First, I am going to go ahead and give you, it's going to be called 2022 RSP camp attendees file. So this is the workbook file that we're going to use, followed by our Word document. Hoping that this goes in okay. If there's a prompt that pops up when you open this Word document, just hit no, because again, I was using this before. So if you have these two, just save it. I guess to save it onto your desktop so you can locate when you browse for the data source. And then just give me a thumbs up. Let me open up my document. Let me close my PowerPoint and go to portion of screen. Open up my Pirate. So this is what we should have open. And again, this is what I had used when I did my presentation on Administrative Professional Week. So you see this certificate here. Hopefully everything opened up okay. Crossing my fingers. And it's got, you see where it says insert name, right? That's where we're going to insert the names of our data set. So open up your Word document. Now we're going to go to Mailing tab. Under Mailing tab, you see a command that says Start Mail Merge right here. Drop that down. And we are going to select Step-by-Step Wizard, which then you're going to see it's going to open up a little taskbar on the right, which is right here. So what type of document are you working with? It's a letter. So this is a letter document. So just keep it as that. And then out at the bottom, you see where it says Step 1 of 6, next, starting document. So click on that link. It's going to move to Step 2. Select starting document. How would you want to set up your letter? Since we already have this open, it's going to be use current document. So we're going to keep it as current document and click on next, which now is asking me to select reception lists. So in this case, where it says use existing lists, we're going to go ahead and hit the browse button. And I need you to browse and locate where you saved that workbook file that you downloaded, whether I mention on your desktop because it's easy to locate it. Once you locate your 2022 RSP Pirate Camp attendees final, just go ahead and click on that. And notice it's recognizing the first sheet, which is basically that. Just go ahead and click on OK. Now you're going to see the reception list, just kind of giving you a preview. Last name, first name, address, city, state, zip code. You can see all of these are checked. So these are the ones that we are going to use with regards to our certificate. So click on OK. And it's going to go ahead and initiate that in there as our current receptionist list. So next we're going to go to where it says write your letter. So we're going to click on that. And we're going to click into our document. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to highlight where it says insert. Oh, keep in mind, if your fonts are different than what you see on the screen, don't be discouraged because this is a customized font that I downloaded off the internet a while back. So I don't know if the fonts did export with the file. If it's different, then just don't worry about it. But the intent is for you to kind of get an idea on how to do this. So I'm going to highlight insert. In where it says mailing, under write and insert field, do you see this command that says insert field right here? There's a drop down. I'm going to drop that down and it's already recognizing my data set. So I'm going to locate first name, insert first name. So you see first name, it's got the code in there. Next, I'm going to highlight name. Make sure you don't pick the space here. Highlight name. Again, I'm going to go back to my mailing. Write and insert field, insert merge field, and I'm going to select last name. So even if it drops it like this, don't worry about it because these are just in code. So once I have that in there, I'm going to go ahead and go down into my mail merge pane where it says preview your letter. Click on that. Now you see it's in preview mode. In preview mode right here, if you go to your mailing tab, under preview results, you see preview results. that has been clicked on. So you can click and unclick, but if you click it on, you can see it's picking up the first and the last name of the data set. And then you can toggle these arrows left and right to see the names. So this kind of gives you a preview glimpse as to what to anticipate. So once you have that done, you can go ahead and go to next, complete the merge down at the bottom 5-6. And then you can either go to print all. It's going to take you to your printing. I'm not going to print through my printer, but I'm going to go ahead and select Microsoft Print to PDF. I have that available. So then I can go ahead and just print it as a PDF document. And just give it a name, Certif example. I'm going to save it on the desktop. So now it's generating it, but if you were to send this to the printer, you'll see that it's going to print one after the other. Or you can go into finish merge and open it as a new document, which is going to show you like the number of pages based on your data set that you can see it formulating that for you. So if you're able to get this going, just go ahead and give me a thumbs up so then I can at least know that you guys were able to successfully complete this task. So if you envision, I don't know, departments out there, like for an example, maybe if you guys were to hold like a training and if you want to create certificates for your trainees, this would be kind of a good way to kind of like learn how to do this method and, create certificates for each of your trainees all at once without having to go through the process of typing in the name, print, delete, typing in the name, print, delete, typing in the name, delete, print, typing in the name, delete, print. As you can see, that sounds exhausting enough to do, but if you're able to, get familiar with this technique of mail merge, you can create your certificate and then, create your data listing, synchronize your data listings to your certificate and work with this method. And then you can see that you can create magically all your certificates in one convenient bolt as opposed to repeating a tedious sequence. So as you can see here, all my certificates have been completed and converted to a Power or PDF. As you can see, bada bing, bada boom. As what my kid would say, easy peasy, fresh and squeezy. So that just kind of demonstrates that. So you ever get an opportunity, again, I'm going to have this reference on our website. So I encourage you, like, create your own certificates. Like, I don't know if there's anyone on Head Start here, like if you have little chinyashis that you are, teaching and you want to give them a certificate, you can go ahead and do this. Or if you have like, say for an existing adult education learning, and if you want to give them a certificate for attending like a seminar or something, this is something that you can do. Or if you're hosting like a Zumba or an event, and then you want to reward your participants a certificate for attending, you can venture onto this technique, create your certificate, create your registration list in Excel, merging those two together, and you can conveniently get this created all in a means of minutes as opposed to hours. So I'm going to go ahead and close. I'm not going to save. And that basically concludes today's sessions.